All right, folks, buckle up because the trade rumor mill is going absolutely wild. And this time, it's not just some fringe move or minor speculation. We're talking about the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo landing on the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, you heard that right. The Greek freak potentially joining forces with Steph Curry in the Bay Area. Of course, ESPN is all over this, as they should be. Jay Williams was on Get Up tossing the idea around, and Bobby Marks, the go-to guy when it comes to breaking down NBA contracts and salary cap logistics, laid out how this could actually be pulled off financially. And the wild part? They both basically said, hey, pull the trigger. It can be done. Now, before we all start dreaming about Giannis dunking on everyone in Chase Center, let's remember something. Making a trade like this happen isn't just about tossing names around and hoping the stars align. It's about contracts, money, cap space, and most of all, realism. Yesterday, I did a breakdown on Karl Anthony Towns and how he could fit, and while that sparked some interesting conversation, let's be real. I would take Giannis 1,000 times over Cat. No shade to Cat, but Giannis is a different breed. The question isn't would you want him? Everyone would. The question is, how can we actually make this work? So here on Warriors Digest, we're about to break it all down piece by piece using, yes, you guessed it, our trusty trade machine. But quick disclaimer before the internet explodes with hot takes. I'm not saying I agree with gutting the roster or dumping all the depth. I'm not here pushing some fantasy scenario like it's 2K. I'm just showing how the numbers work, how it could be structured legally under the current collective bargaining agreement. Because let's face it, some of y'all jump in the comments with trade Draymond, trade Steph, trade BP, trade Moody. Like it's a pickup game at the park, you know? It's not that simple. I wish it was. I'd love to trade BP for Cat too, but you have to match salaries. That's how the league works now. Let me break it down. BP's current contract is around $3 million. Moody, he's now sitting at $12 million. That's a massive out difference when you're trying to make a mega deal work financially. You can't swap BP in for Moody in a trade and expect the numbers to check out. That's why I use the trade simulator to show you the math, not just dream up names. And before anyone gets heated, no, I'm not saying the Warriors should gut their core. I'm not saying we should trade Jimmy Butler if we had him or throw away depth for one superstar. What I'm doing is educating you on how trades of this magnitude are built in the current NBA, especially under this new stricter apron system that changes everything. Gone are the days where you could just stack superstars and worry about the rest later. Look at the Thunder. Look at the Pacers. Teams that are thriving not by hoarding stars, but by building deep, balanced rosters. The league is shifting, and teams that adapt are the ones winning. So, back to our Giannis dream scenario. The question is, can you build a contending team with Giannis and Steph as your two anchors? Maybe. Possibly. But if one of them gets hurt, what's left? You need depth. We've seen this play out before. Even in Milwaukee, when Giannis lost Dame in the playoffs, he couldn't carry the team all the way. It's not a knock on him. It's just the reality of today's NBA. You need a full, well-rounded squad. Now, let's talk about the numbers. Bobby Marks laid out some scenarios on Get Up, and one of the clearest paths involves bringing in a third big-name contract to match salaries. Jimmy Butler was the hypothetical name tossed around. His contract? Around $54 million. Draymond Green is at about $25 million. Giannis? He's set to make $52 million, so you need to pull contracts together that match that amount. Here's the thing. If the trade was simply Jimmy Butler for Giannis on paper from a salary matching perspective, it works. Both make roughly the same, so it clears the salary cap hurdles. But realistically, would the Bucks ever do that? Absolutely not. They're not trading Giannis straight up for a player entering the back end of his prime, even if it's Jimmy. So you need to sweeten the deal with draft picks. And not just any picks. You'd be looking at multiple first rounders, probably one in 2026, another in 2028, maybe even something unprotected in 2 through 31. And yes, those are the kinds of assets you have to give up when you're going fishing for a generational talent. So then we run it through the machine. We set it up, Jimmy to the Bucks, Giannis to the Warriors, plus first round picks in 2026, top 10 protected, 2028, lottery protected, and 2031, unprotected. You might even throw in some second rounders. Eventually, we get a green light trade. Success. It's legal under league rules. Now, again, I'm not saying Milwaukee accepts this, but that's what it would take, contract-wise, to even begin the conversation. Now what if you try to do it with Draymond instead? Just Draymond for Giannis? Doesn't work. The math isn't even close. The Warriors would be $28 million over their allowable incoming salary. That's why it can't be BP either. His contract is just too small to move the needle. You need someone like Moody, who's at $11 million, to get anywhere close. That's how this stuff works. It's not about liking a player more. It's about the numbers lining up. Plain and simple. So let's say the Warriors went all in. They move Jimmy, they move Moody, and maybe even Draymond. They package enough picks to tempt Milwaukee into thinking about the future, especially if they believe Giannis isn't staying long term. Now you've got a big three of Steph, Giannis, and Jimmy, or whatever combo works. It's a top-heavy squad, sure, but you've still got Brandon Podziemski as a bench piece. You need to fill out the rest of the roster with vet minimums and rookie contracts, but that's the cost of doing business when you're swinging for the fences. Under the current apron system, you're looking at a hard cap just under $195 million, and every dollar counts. You'd have around $20 million left to work with once the stars are in place. It's tight, but it's doable. Barely. And again, if Milwaukee is retooling rather than rebuilding, getting a player like Jimmy for 2 years, plus a haul of picks, might be their best option instead of letting Giannis walk for nothing. Their trade simulator shows it clearly. If you structure the deal right and get creative with protections on the picks, it can go through. But again, this is all just an exercise in possibilities. Do I think it's likely the Warriors pull this off? Not really. Do I think Milwaukee gives up Giannis unless he demands out? Definitely not. But this is what ESPN is talking about, so we're going to talk about it too. Not to feed the hype, but to explain how it could technically be done. Now, if we try to switch out Moody and put in BP instead, what happens? You guessed it, trade fails. Because again, BP's contract is just $3 million. You'd still be over $15 million short on matching salaries. That's the difference between BP's $3 million and Moody's $11 million. It's not about talent, it's about balance sheets. So hopefully this gives you a clearer picture of how these mega trades get structured. Whether it's a pipe dream or not, it's fun to break it down and look at how the numbers work. Would the Warriors say goodbye to Draymond or Jimmy if Giannis was on the table? I mean, come on, of course. You at least listen. You'd be crazy not to. And look, I get it. Some of y'all are already typing in the comments, this is never going to happen, or no way Milwaukee gives up Giannis. And yeah, that's fair. But trades in the NBA don't always follow what makes sense emotionally or even competitively in the short term. Sometimes it's about timing, leverage, and long-term positioning. Think about the Paul George to OKC trade, or Kawhi to Toronto, or even Kevin Durant going to the Suns. These things can feel impossible until suddenly they're not. The Bucks might look at their current roster and think, can we still build a title contender around Giannis? And if the answer is no, whether because of contract situations, cap limitations, or just pure exhaustion from trying, they might explore the idea of moving him before he walks. Especially now, in this new collective bargaining agreement era, where second apron penalties make it way harder to add depth once you have multiple max contracts on the books. If Giannis lets the front office know he's not re-signing, they'll have to make some hard decisions. And that's the window where the Warriors or any smart front office jumps in with an offer. Now, let's dig back into why Moody matters so much in this. His $11 million deal is kind of the secret weapon for trade math. It's not huge, but it's just enough to bridge that financial gap when you're trying to bring in a $50 million player like Giannis. If you don't include him and instead go with someone like BP, who's only making around $3 million, you're just too far under the required salary match. People think this is like fantasy basketball, where you just select players and press trade. But under NBA rules, teams over the cap can only take back a certain percentage more than they send out. That's why these deals get so intricate. And it's not just about the money today. It's about how the money affects the team down the line. Every draft pick you give up limits your flexibility for the next 5, 6, even 7 years. So a move for Giannis would essentially mean betting your entire future on a 2 or 3 year championship window. That's the gamble. Do you think Steph has 2 or 3 more elite years? Do you think Giannis can hold up physically and dominate like he's done in Milwaukee? And do you think a thin, top-heavy team can still compete when teams like Denver, Minnesota, and OKC are getting deeper and more athletic? Because once you go down this road, there's no turning back. Like, if you trade for Giannis, you're not developing rookies. You're not playing the long game. You're all in right now. That's the mindset required. And it's exactly the kind of mindset the Warriors have had before. Remember when they traded for Andrew Wiggins and took on his contract while the whole league was laughing? That turned into a championship. So they're not afraid of ball moves. The question is whether this particular one makes sense under the current conditions. And again, I'm not saying Jimmy Butler is the guy to move. I'm not saying the Warriors have already made calls. I'm just showing you how it could happen. Giannis and Steph together, that's a problem for the rest of the league. One's an unstoppable force in the paint. The other's the greatest shooter of all time. Add in whatever depth you can scrounge together, and maybe you've got enough to make a real run. But lose either of them to injury, and suddenly your season's hanging by a thread. That's why teams like Indiana and OKC are being talked about as real threats. They're deep. They have 10 guys who can play real minutes. They're not relying on one or two superstars. They're building sustainable models under the new rules. But if the Warriors believe they've got one last run in them, one last super team moment before this core ages out, then Giannis is the type of player you move heaven and earth for. Now, if the Bucks do decide to deal him, they're going to want the world. Picks, young talent, maybe even a name that keeps the fans interested for a year or two. Jimmy might be that name, especially if Milwaukee believes they can still compete in the East with a quick retool. But they're not going to settle. They'll want leverage, they'll want optionality, and they'll want control over the future. That's why those 2026, 2028, and 2031 picks matter. Protected or not, they give the Bucks hope of landing the next star down the road. There's also the wild card element of Giannis himself. If he makes it clear to Milwaukee that he won't re-sign or that he's not happy with the direction of the franchise, their hands get tied real quick. Suddenly the offers start coming in fast, and it's not about getting equal value anymore. It's about getting the best package possible before the situation gets toxic. We've seen it happen with stars before, and it's never pretty. The Bucks would rather control the narrative than be caught off guard. So here's where we land. Is a Giannis to Warriors trade likely? Probably not. Is it impossible? Definitely not. This league moves fast. 1 week a rumor sounds like nonsense, and the next week is breaking news. The point of this breakdown is to give you a realistic view of how the numbers line up, what assets would need to move, and what kind of sacrifices a team like Golden State would have to make. Because let's be honest, if the Bucks called the Warriors tomorrow and said, Giannis is available, you think Mike Dunleavy hangs up the phone? No chance. You answer that call. You ask the price, and you start crunching the numbers. Because the chance to pair Giannis with Steph, even for just 2 or 3 years, is a shot at history. It's a chance to extend a dynasty and chase another ring. And no matter how unlikely it may seem today in the NBA, that's all the reason you need to at least try. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. A buzzing rumor is sweeping through the NBA landscape. Could Domantas Sabonis be the next big name joining the Golden State Warriors? Sources close to the situation have whispered about a potential move that's stirring excitement among Warriors fans and NBA insiders alike. Sabonis, known for his versatile skill set and tenacity on the court, would bring a fresh dynamic to a team already stacked with talent. But this rumor hints at a strategic shakeup that could reshape the Warriors' future. The buzz began when Sabonis was spotted arriving in the Bay Area amid what some are calling a celebratory welcome. While no official announcement has been made, the timing and enthusiasm surrounding his arrival suggests that something significant might be brewing behind the scenes. The Warriors, who have been looking to bolster their front court depth, could see Sabonis as a perfect fit to complement their star-studded lineup led by Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Sabonis' style of play is known for its adaptability, a strong rebounder with a reliable mid-range shot, and the ability to facilitate offense, making him a valuable asset in any system. Rumors suggest that Golden State's coaching staff is intrigued by how Sabonis could add a new layer of toughness and versatility, potentially helping the team navigate the grueling Western Conference with more firepower inside the paint. The excitement hasn't been contained just within team circles. Fans and commentators have been buzzing on social media, speculating about how Sabonis' presence could shift the Warriors' championship odds. Could this be the secret ingredient to a new title run? Or is this just a fleeting whisper in the off-season noise? The Warriors have a history of making bold moves, and this potential acquisition fits the pattern of aggressive talent hunting. Meanwhile, Sabonis' current team is reportedly keeping a close eye on developments, with insiders suggesting that negotiations might still be underway. The player himself has remained mostly silent, fueling even more speculation about what his next chapter might hold. If the deal goes through, expect an electrifying welcome event, as hinted by the recent festive scenes in the Bay Area. As the story unfolds, the basketball world watches eagerly. Will Domantas Sabonis be the next Warrior to add his talents to the legendary franchise? For now, it remains a tantalizing rumor, one that could transform the Warriors and shake up the NBA hierarchy. Only time will tell if this buzzing possibility becomes reality. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.